Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. The mourning. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Salatu wassalam ala Rasulil Kareem. Rabbana taqabbal minna zidna ilma wa hikma wa huda. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad abduka wa rasuluka nabiyil ummi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam taslima. Allahumma atina nufusana taqwaha wa zakkiha anta khayru man zakkaha anta waliyuha wa mawlaha. Allahumma hamd shukna amma ba'd. All the praises belong to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everything happens because of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is the one that's the Lord of the universe. And may peace and blessings, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon his final prophet and messenger, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And today we're going to talk about the mourning period, the Hidad they say in Arabic. And what that happens is when a woman becomes a widow, that means her husband passes away, she has certain things that she has to do during that time. And they call that the mourning period, or they call that the Hidad. And this is continuing on the fiqh al-Hanbaliya, on the madhab of Ahmad Ibn Hanbal, as explained by Ibn Qudamah in his book Al-Umdah, where he talks about the different aspects of the things, inshallah. So somebody would like to read the first point?
Yeah, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Al-Ihdad, or the mourning period for the widow. وهو واجب على من توفى عنها زوجها.
Yes.
It's obligatory for her and whoever's husband died.
Yes. So what happens is if a woman is there and she has her husband, and then her husband dies, then it's obligatory for her to go on this mourning period. It's sort of like an iddah. It's like the same thing as iddah, but it's specifically made for people that become widowed, where their husband they die, and she has to do particular things during that time. And in English you say mourning, but maybe you can call it mourning, maybe not. Maybe that's not a good translation. But in Arabic the word is Hidad. Hidad, that's the term for it. And usually the reason they use mourning means it has a meaning of being sad and things like that. And usually the women are sad, but that might not necessarily be the case. You know, if a woman is sad that her husband passed away or not. There's a person, you know, everything happens by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when a person passes away, when that comes, that's it. You know, the person is going to pass away. And a person, they should not be against the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know, they shouldn't be like crying because it's the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But they might cry because they miss the person. You know, because a person, they have their friend, for example, and the friend, they go away and move to a faraway country, then they become sad because they're not going to see their friend. No, that's fine. But they shouldn't be like, sad because of, what the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala happened. And that's what Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said for his son Ibrahim. When Ibrahim passed away, people asked him, are you crying because of the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? He said, no, I'm crying because of the love that I had for my son. That's the reason for it. So the same thing goes. So you can call it mourning, but maybe not necessarily, because it means that a person, they're sad in the morning, but it means like the iddah, the chapter here is Hidad, which is the iddah, the buffer period or the temporary period that a widow goes through when her husband dies. That's what that refers to. And this is obligatory on a woman when her husband passes away to do this Hidad. Okay, can you read the next one, number 2? Yes. Okay, the first thing is the woman has to avoid the beautification. These things that she has to avoid attracting other men to her. Basically, those are the rulings for it. That's why you have these things mentioned here. So the woman that's in her Hidad, she shouldn't beautify herself in that state, while she's in the state of the mourning, the state of the Hidad. That's the first thing to avoid, beautification. Number 2 is what? Perfume? Teeb, perfume. She shouldn't wear the perfume. And wearing the perfume going out in public, that's not allowed anyways, for any woman. And in some of the hadiths it says a woman that does that, then she has committed a zina. She's done that because other men, they smell that scent from her, the perfume, and that's not appropriate. A woman, she has to wear the hijab when she goes out, and the hijab means blocking, and that blocks the advances of the men, that blocks the advances of men staring at her and things like that. So that's the same thing. It's like preventing the advances of men more to more of an extent. But the perfume, she avoids that even while she stays at home. I guess that's the ruling for it. No, she avoids wearing the perfume and the scent. So that's the second thing. The third thing it says is yes, the kuhl would be in the antimony, And what that is it's eyeliner that they have, kohl. What they do is they put like a coal, charcoal on their eyes, and it makes it more darker. So people, they do that. I guess that was a tradition back then. And that's something that she has to avoid. That's what the sheikh, he said, that she's in her hidad, she has to avoid these things. And basically these things are things that attract men, because once she's in the morning, then she's not allowed to do those things in the morning to attract other men. Antimony is what the coal is made of. It's made of antimony. That's the term for it.
ولبس الثوب المصبوغة للتحسين.
Yes, so she shouldn't wear clothes that are adorned. She should wear simple clothing, clothing that's not drawing attention to her. Basically, that's the case. Okay, so these are the things that she has to avoid in the hidad. Those things that are mentioned in the state of mourning. Okay, and that's when her husband passes away. So that's the ruling for it. Did you read number 3?
لقول رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا يحل لامرأة تؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر أن تحد على ميت فوق ثلاث إلا على الزوج 4 أشهر و10.
Yes. So what happens is if any person that passes away for a woman, it's not allowed for her to mourn more than 3 days for any person. 3 days is the maximum time, except for her husband. If her husband passes away, then she can mourn for 4 months and 10 days, and that's a hadith from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that's the case when somebody passes away and dies. Sometimes people, they have strong emotions, strong feelings, and especially the women, they have strong feelings and emotions if somebody passes away. That's why also it's mentioned that, for the women, it's detested for her to go to the graveyard, because it becomes a temptation, it becomes very emotional for her to go there to the graveyard. So any person that passes away, for a woman, the maximum time for her is 3 days, not more than 3 days. If she does more than 3 days, then she's doing a sin, except for her husband. Her husband, it's enjoined for her for 4 months and 10 days. 4 months and 10 days for her husband. And again, it's not allowed for nahu. Nahu is what's the word for it? For ripping the clothes and striking the cheek. What's that? What's the term for English word?
When they hit themselves.
Yes.
I can't remember what it's called.
What is it?
If the extreme in where somebody passes away.
Women, sometimes they'll slap their face or tear their clothes because of grieving, but it's not allowed, right?
Yes, that's not allowed. The crying is allowed, but not to the extent of where they rip their clothes and they slap their cheeks. I forgot the word that they use in English. In Arabic they use nahu for the word for it in Arabic. So that's not allowed for the woman. So this means this is the hidad. This is the mourning state for the woman, 4 months and 10 days when her husband passes away. So that's the time that she has for that, for the mourning for her husband. And that's a hadith from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Any person passes away, it's only 3 days. Her father passes away, her son passes away, her brother passes away, 3 days at the most. But if her husband passes away, 4 months and 10 days. Okay, inshallah, so read number 4.
ولا تلبس ثوبا مصبوغا إلا ثوب عصب.
Yes. So again, not to wear the clothes that are drawing attention to her, except for the simple clothing, not the because the thing is, in that time, she shouldn't be attracting other men to her to propose to her at that time, because she has to do the mourning for her husband. So these things are based on that, and not to wear the clothes with adornments and fancy clothing and things like that draws looks from other men and things like that. That's not appropriate for her to do that. And even outside that time, she shouldn't wear clothes that are sexually appealing and things like that. That's not allowed in Islam. And you see, like if you look at Saudi Arabia, the culture there is the women, they wear black, and they say that the men should not wear black because that's imitating women. They say that, and the reason for that is because they try to, not draw attention to them. And that's what some people they say, but some of the ulama they say it doesn't necessarily have to be just wearing black. But the black is like, you know, if it's not drawing attention. You know, if you're in a crowd of people and you wear something, everybody looks at you, right? We have the clothes that's like that. But the black, it's like in the background, you know. So that's what they're saying. Wear the simple clothing during this time, you know, not the ones that are adorned and draws attention to them. Okay, should we read the next one?
ولا تكتحل.
Yes. So let's mention that previously.
No,
The eyeliner, the kohl, not to put that on the eyes.
وتمس طيبا إلا إذا اغتسلت
Yes.
نبذة من قصد أو أظفار.
Yes. Okay, so not to put on the perfume and not to touch the perfume. That's the
Except
case
when
for
she washes.
Yes. Yes.
نبذة من قصد
Yes.
أو أظفار. What is نبذة من قصد?
These are different types of, I think, scents from Yemen or something like that. So it's not really applicable in today's day. If you look, if you look at that, they had some particular scents that came from Yemen, like particular perfume. So if you look at I searched this, what this meant, and there were different types of scents that
Maybe they're light perfumes, maybe something like that.
No, it's a particular type of scent that they got from perfume in the time of Prophet Muhammad
Right.
Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam.
And
So they called it
so
that.
he's saying you can do those.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess that's what's allowed. It's just like, you know, when you go for the Hajj, you can't put on scent on your body, but if you use soap on your body, that's allowed. And even the scented soap, some of the ulama, they say that's a scent, or don't do that. But many of the ulama, they say that's not what it meant. That's not what's meant by it, by using the scented soap. So it's similar to that, you know, with the woman. If she does the ghusl, she washes herself, and she can use soap and other things. Maybe there's some scent in it, but not in the scent that sends out the scent throughout the environment, and other people, they smell it. That's what they meant by it.
وعليها المبيت وعليها المبيت في منزلها الذي وجبت عليها العدة.
Yes. So what she has to do is she has to stay home and not go out except for necessities. No, she has to stay home as much as possible. The ulama, they say she has to go to the supermarket and buy some food. That's allowed for her to do that, but then come back and stay home. If she has to go to work, then she can do that. That's like the necessity that she has to do. But as much time as possible to stay at home and only go out or when she has a need to go out during that time, the 4 months and then 10 days in the Hidad. And then once that's over, then she can go back to going out normally again after that. But during that time, it's a state of mourning, so that's normally what she does. And she stays in the home where her husband is, where normally speaking the iddah is obligatory for her to stay. She'll stay in that particular home 4 months and 10 days in the period of the Hidad.
So I think Sheikh, you're
Yes.
saying that it has to be her husband's home or any home in which.
Well, the place where she lived with, and she lives with her husband, right?
Yeah.
She's married with her husband. Her husband died, so she's living there with her husband.
So what happens, like Sheikh, nowadays here in America, for example, if now her husband passed away, he's not making any money, they didn't have any money saved, how is she going to live in the house? Say she was renting, she can't pay rent, or she was on a mortgage, she can't pay the mortgage. How is she going to stay in her house, husband's house, if her husband's not paying for the house?
Yeah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help them, so hopefully she'll be okay. But if she's in dire need and the community's got to help her, then inshallah, that's what the zakat is for, right? The people that give the zakat and sadaqah and things like that, if a person, they become needy, and the husband was supporting her and he passes away, and she doesn't have children that supports her, she doesn't have anybody else, and then, you know, that's an obligation on the zakat. And people, they realize that it's an obligation on the wealthy to give to the poor. You know, it's wajib, it's a fard. People that have a lot of wealth to give the zakat to the poor, but also it's a right for the poor. That's what they say in the ilm. The poor people have a right to be supported. So if she ends up in that state where she needs the help and the support, then you know, she's rightfully given the zakat, inshallah.
Right, and obviously when the husband passes away, we would give her from the. So does this period in which she has to have nifaq, right? She needs nafaqah until she goes past her iddah, right? So do we take that on top first from the mirath, from the inheritance, or does that nafaqah come from her share of the inheritance?
Her inheritance, if you look in the books of fiqh, it says that she gets a quarter
Yes.
if
If she doesn't have children.
if
He
her
doesn't
husband
have
doesn't
children.
have any children or parents,
But an eighth if
and
he
the eighth
does.
if husband has children or
So
parents.
how is she supposed to live? I mean,
There's another lesson on that on the spending on the person on the that's on the Hiddah.
okay.
That's coming up in the future. So let's see what the Sheikh says about that in that
Mm.
circumstance. But there's a whole lesson about that. There's a whole lecture on that coming in
Yeah.
the future on the spending on the woman during her Iddah during
Okay.
the period. So it talks about that. So I think it mentions over there on what's the case over there.
Okay. So ideally though, she'd stay in the same house somehow.
Right. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. She would stay in the same house, and but then the inheritance comes in, and the inheritance goes through. I know today's day people, they look at time of the person they stay there. The time is money, the rent and things like that. But back then they didn't look at that as a person staying there, and it'll make a difference if you stay there a few months extra or not.
Mm.
So that's the thing to bear in mind. And then after that, whether it's before or after, then the things get divided according to the inheritance after that. So back then it didn't make a difference. It was 4 months before, 4 months after. After that, so. I think over here too, maybe it's not like a significant amount, it's like
Right. And
4 months
and
earlier, 4 months after,
Just
they
to
do the
understand
inheritance.
also, when her husband passes away,
Yes.
let's say he owned the house that he was
Yes.
living in, like
Yes.
that will go to inheritance, right?
Right,
So
yes.
like that house will get split up to the inheritors.
Yes,
Okay.
that's, no.
Yeah.
No, inshallah, yeah, hopefully it'll be nice to her. He was his wife, so maybe, then that's fine to stay there during the 4 months and the 10 days and then do the inheritance after that. Even over here, practically in this society here in America, it takes many years before the inheritance is done. So if you look at it here in America, and other places, they're not going to care about, the money that's involved in a few months, 4 months that's there, because it doesn't really, it's not really too much of a difference.
Right.
No, so that's the
Okay.
thing. But that's up to ask some of the other shuyukh and ulama. Maybe they'll give you an answer. For me, I just relay what the ulama they say. I can't say
Yeah.
anything for myself.
So
I can give you a judgment, but I'm nobody, so that doesn't mean anything. Okay,
Yeah.
Chalo.
So وهي ساكنة فيه إذا أمكنها ذلك أو
Yes.
أمكنها ذلك.
Yes. Yes, so she has to stay there if she's able to stay in the home
If
that
it's
she was
possible
with
for
her
her to
husband.
stay, she should
It's
stay.
possible to her. she
But for
should stay there.
example, if she can't stay because
Yeah, it talks about like some scenarios afterwards where she can't stay in the home.
فإن
So she has to
خرجت
stay.
لسفر أو حج فتوفى زوجها وهي قريبة رجعت لتعدد
Mhm.
لتعدد
Yeah.
في بيتها.
Yes.
So if she went on a journey or Hajj, or even Hajj, and her husband died, if she's close by, she should return to her house and do it there.
Right, yes, do the Hidad over there if it's not too far away,
Yeah.
If they traveled, her husband and the wife, and the husband died during that travel, if it's close by, then she should return home and do the Hidad over there. So that's the case if it's not too far.
وإن تباعدت- yeah, go ahead.
And back in the old days, traveling used to take a long time.
Right, like weeks,
It's
months,
not,
stuff like
right,
that.
yeah, it's not like nowadays where you have an airplane and you're there just a couple hours or half a day or something like that. The journey sometimes would be a year long or 6 months long or something like
Right.
that. And sometimes people, they will go far, and then, by the time she gets back, the 4 months and 10 days are long over, so.
Right.
If they do that, so that's what the Sheikh is saying. So if it's close by, or they're on the Hajj and they live close by, then she goes back to the home.
Right.
If it's not too far. If
Right.
it's too far, then, then that's difficult for her to go back home and to observe the Hidad in that case.
وإن
So that's what he
تباع-
mentions.
yeah, وإن تباعدت
Mhm.
مضت في سفرها.
Yes.
If she's far, she stays in her journey.
Right, yes, so she doesn't have to go back to the house immediately. If it's far away, she can stay on her journey, so it's not a requirement for her to be at the home in that case if she is traveling very far. Okay, then we got one more.
والمطلقة ثلاثة
Mhm.
مثلها إلا في الاعتداد في بيتها.
Yes, so he's the Sheikh over here saying that a woman that's divorced 3 times, then she has the same ruling of the woman on Hidad, not to beautify herself and attract other men.
Okay.
until the time is over. So that's what he says. So that's what he mentioned on that.
Oh,
When
okay,
she's
so like the
three times.
divorced woman who is divorced the first and second time, she
Yes.
should beautify herself
Yes, because he
or in
wants
her
to,
home,
so the people can reconcile, so they
Yeah.
can reconciliate.
in the husband's home.
Right, in the husband's home, so you beautify herself and make her, and honor her husband.
Right.
So then the husband will take her back and they can reconciliate. She should do that.
But now if she's irrevocably divorced,
Right,
meaning
yes.
divorced the third time,
Yes, and he says that's the same ruling.
she should go to her family's house, her
Uh,
own house, not her husband's house.
No, she can stay there, but she's gotta wear, the hijab and things like that, because they're not allowed to be together, that's what they say. So he says the same ruling is for that woman.
He would really become a non-mahram, right? I mean, like, it would be,
Yes,
it would
if
be
it's
like
a
a
third.
stranger.
Right, if it's a third divorce, because they can't get back together until she gets married to somebody else and has a sexual relation with them, and then, they can get back to do
So
a
the
new marriage
final
after.
divorce, in that final divorce, she has to do like Hidad like that, like she has to not wear any beautiful
Yes,
clothes.
she still has the iddah, and some of the ulama, they say that they have the same ruling for the woman that are iddah. I think at the Hanafi school, they have the same ruling. But whether her husband passes away or she's divorced, she has to do all those things. Avoid beautifying herself and avoid going out and all those things. So some of the other ulama, they say so. He's saying the same thing, if it's a third divorce for a woman that's divorced 3 times, then they gotta observe all those things not to attract other men. And again, while she's in her hidad, it's not allowed for anybody to make a proposal to her during that time. They can make an indirect proposal. They can go to her and say that, that I'm looking to get married, or you should be getting married soon, or something like that, but they can't make a direct proposal to her during that time until the hidad is over.
Right.
4 months and 10 days is over, then they can make the direct proposal to her after that. And then also some women, they love her husband so much, then they don't want to be with anybody else, and then they'll be together in the Jannah, right? So that's another issue too, if a woman
So is
really
that,
loved her so
is
much.
that, what is preferred? So that she doesn't marry it for the rest of the life, or she marries? What is the ruling?
No, either way that she could do it, but a person shouldn't be upset, if that's the case.
Now, if she's, like, I'm talking about the woman, is it either she's divorced or her husband died?
Yes.
Is that, what is better for a woman to do? Is it to remarry or just stay?
Yeah, either way, the person they shouldn't be upset at her. If she does get remarried to somebody, people don't blame her.
Islamic ruling in terms of,
Both of
Is
them
it,
are
is it
either way.
preferable for her to get married again, or is it preferable for her to stay single?
Sometimes people they don't want to be alone afterwards, so they want to be together. And sometimes people they're very loyal to their husband.
Isn't it better for her to get married because she'll get a physical protection, financial protection, and somebody was there. It's not like a one life, one wife.
People they have different ideas and opinions and feelings, so it depends on the person. Maybe a person they feel that way and they say they want to have somebody and have support from somebody, and they want to get married again, so they'll do that. And the other women they feel, they love their first husband so much, and they're never going to get married to anybody else. So there's not people that have different feelings, So I can't blame any one of them, and that's their choice on what they want to do. On that.
So whether she gets married again or doesn't get married again, there's no blame on her either way.
Right, yes,
It's up to
that's her
whatever she
choice.
wants,
She has a choice on what to do on that, and it's up to her what she wants to do. I'd say.
I think practically, Chef, there is some like, if she's gonna be broke and she's
Yes,
gonna need a
yes.
place to live and stuff like that, then,
Right, yes.
obviously she should do what
Yes.
makes sense.
The thing is, if a person, they're imam or there's somebody giving these rulings, you want to stick with what's in the rules of fiqh. If you start getting personally involved in people,
Right.
they're going to get upset at you. So they don't want to get personally involved in people. So you got to stick with what's there.
It's
the rules
permissible
of
for her to
Islam.
marry, it's permissible
Right,
to her
yes.
to not marry. It's
Stick
up
with
to
that.
whatever she wants, right?
And the same thing, if a person, they're doing counseling, people, they come and you're going to hear all types of stuff from one person to the other person, things like that. And you don't want to say anything that's not from,
Right.
otherwise people, they're going to get very upset at you,
Yeah.
So stick with the things that are mentioned in books of fiqh and then, that's what's appropriate.
Right.
Otherwise, if you get personally involved, then you're going to get very hard feelings and emotions from the response from people for those
Right.
things. So these are the things that the Sheikh mentioned, the Hanbali school, and the Hidad that's enjoined, and, for the woman when her husband passes away, and not to attract other men to her until her Hidad is over. And even before that, it's not good to attract, to go in the path of zina. If it leads in the path of zina, that's completely haram.
Yeah.
You know, that's not allowed in that case. That's why women, they cover themselves, so it doesn't lead to that, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forbade. All right, inshallah, let's stop over here. Is there any comments or questions? Sheikh Lisan, did you have any comments or questions about this?
No.
Okay, inshallah, stop over here. Press okay. All right, Jazakallah khair.